Listen carefully to this moment, because this is not just another speech. This is the storm before the sunrise, the silence before. The name echoes through every corridor that once laughed at your fall. Love it or hate it, they're all pointing fingers at you for this player's 180-degree turn. And you know what? That's exactly how it was supposed to be. Because people never turn their heads toward stillness. They turn their heads toward motion, transformation, and shock. You became the storm they never saw coming, and now they whisper, they argue, they deny, but they cannot explain what you did. You were the one they overlooked, the one they said had peaked, had fallen off, had lost touch, had nothing left to prove. They built your tomb while you were still breathing, carved your name into a wall of used to be. But then something inside you refused to die. Something in you burned when they told you to quit. Something ancient, quiet, and patient. The kind of fire that doesn't roar, it hums. The kind of rage that doesn't destroy, it builds. The kind of strength that doesn't shout, it remembers. They said your story was over. You smiled. You waited. And in the darkness of your silence, you sharpened yourself. You didn't fight their words with louder words. You fought with time, with discipline, with isolation. Because you understood that silence terrifies the world more than noise ever could. While they were laughing, you were learning. While they were celebrating your downfall, you were rebuilding your soul. While they were pointing fingers, you were polishing a blade called focus. And then it happened. The turn. The impossible turn. The 180-degree twist that made them choke on their predictions. The moment where they all froze and said, "Wait, how?" That's the sound of history being rewritten. That's the sound of truth overpowering rumor. Because no one saw the hours. No one saw the scars. No one saw the loneliness that built this moment. They saw the victory, but not the cost. They saw the final chapter, but not the endless rewrites. Now they're pointing fingers, trying to explain what they can't understand. Some say it was luck. Others say it was timing. But deep down, they all know it wasn't luck. It was obsession. The kind that wakes you up before the sun and whispers, "We're not done yet." The kind that keeps you awake when everyone else is asleep. The kind that breaks you down so you can rebuild yourself into something unrecognizable. You became unexplainable. You became unpredictable. And that's why they can't stand it. Because the moment they can't define you, they can't control you. The moment they can't predict you, they can't prepare for you. That's the power of your transformation. It doesn't just change your life, it shakes their reality. They built categories, boxes and labels to make sense of you, and you destroyed them all with one decision to rise again. They don't hate you for what you did. They hate you because you remind them of what they haven't done. You became the mirror they can't face. Your 180-degree turn wasn't just a comeback, it was a revelation. You showed them what happens when someone refuses to stay broken. When someone refuses to accept the version of themselves the world wrote for them. You proved that destiny isn't given, it's taken. And now, every time your name is mentioned, it drags a shadow behind it, the shadow of their own regret. You see, every pointing finger hides a story. Some point because they envy, some point because they fear, some point because they can't understand how you turned pain into purpose. But none of them can deny what they're witnessing. Because deep down, they know this isn't luck, it's resurrection. And now, you're standing in the middle of the noise. The same people who called you done are now pretending they always believed. The same ones who turned their backs are now asking how you did it. But the truth is, you owe them nothing. Because they weren't there when you were breaking quietly. They weren't there when you were fighting invisible battles. They only saw the stage, not the rehearsal. They saw the success, not the suffering. So don't explain yourself. Don't justify your turn. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them debate. Because confusion is your victory. Mystery is your revenge. The moment they can't define you, they're forced to respect you. You don't need validation from the same voices that once doubted your worth. You already proved everything when you refused to quit. What they don't realize is that every insult was fuel. Every rumor was oxygen. Every time they said you couldn't, you smiled and quietly said, "Watch me." You took their disbelief and forged it into a weapon. You turned every whisper into a drumbeat. You became unstoppable, not because you were fearless, but because you learned how to move through fear. You learned that courage isn't loud, it's consistent. They can't explain what you did because it wasn't supposed to be possible. You weren't supposed to come back from that fall. You weren't supposed to rise after they erased your name. But you did, and now they're rewriting their stories, pretending they saw it coming. But the truth will always remain. You changed without asking for permission. You evolved without applause. You grew in silence, and the world only noticed when the roar of your return drowned out their doubts. Now, look at you. The same player they dismissed is now the center of every conversation. The same name they forgot is now a symbol of resilience. The same silence they mocked is now the sound of domination. You didn't just turn your career around, you turned your entire narrative upside down. You didn't just win, you redefined what winning means. You see, this isn't about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself right. Because your journey wasn't fueled by revenge, it was fueled by rebirth. Revenge fades, but rebirth transforms. You didn't climb back to get even. You climbed back to show the world what transformation looks like when it's built on faith, patience, and fire. And now, every step you take burns with meaning. Every victory echoes with the sound of those sleepless nights. Every move you make reminds them that you are not to be underestimated again. You are no longer the same. You have been broken, rebuilt, refined, and reborn. And the world can feel it, even if they can't explain it. So let them talk. Let them point. Let them say your change is impossible, unbelievable, unnatural, because they're right. It's beyond what they can understand. It's something deeper, something that can't be explained in statistics or headlines. It's the unspoken energy of someone who refused to die when the world buried them alive. And maybe that's why your story hits so hard. Because everyone wants to rise, but no one wants to suffer. Everyone wants transformation, but no one wants to be tested. You were also tested. You were broken. You were betrayed. And yet, here you are, standing tall in a storm that was meant to drown you, smiling in a fire that was meant to consume you, breathing in a world that once forgot your name. They can't explain what you did because they never saw it coming. But you did. You saw it in the mirror when no one else did. You felt it in your chest when doubt tried to choke you. You knew, even in the silence, that one day the tables would turn. And they did. You didn't wait for luck. You built your own destiny from the ashes of your mistakes. This is your era. Not because they allowed it, but because you claimed it. This is your redemption. Not because they forgave you, but because you forgave yourself. The world will keep pointing fingers, but you don't owe them explanations. You owe them excellence. You owe them the silence of a mind too focused to argue, too disciplined to react, too powerful to be distracted. And remember this, When they point at you, it means you're shining too bright to ignore. When they question you, it means you've done something extraordinary. When they can't explain what you did, it means you've stepped into a realm where logic ends and greatness begins. So love it or hate it, they'll always talk. But let them talk to the echo of your footsteps as you walk past them. Let them talk to the dust you leave behind. Let them try to define what they can't comprehend. Because you, the one they doubted, have become the one they discuss. You've turned their disbelief into your legacy. And one day, when they look back, they'll realize that the turning point they mocked was the moment you became unstoppable. The 180-degree turn wasn't luck, it was destiny unfolding. The fingers pointing at you now are the same ones that once pointed away, and that's the beauty of your rise. You became the example they can't ignore. They can't explain what you did, because it wasn't meant to be explained. It was meant to be witnessed. It was meant to remind the world that silence can roar, that endings can restart, that the ones they count out are often the ones who count themselves in. You are proof that transformation doesn't ask for permission. It demands recognition. So stand tall, walk through the noise, let them point, let them whisper, let them wonder, because every word they say is just another confirmation that you've done what they never believed possible. You turned the story upside down. You made the impossible your signature. And now, every eye that once looked away is forced to watch. They can't explain what you did, and that's the point. Because sometimes the greatest victory is not about proving them wrong, but proving to yourself that you were right to keep going when everything said stop. You see, this turn, this shift, this moment that everyone talks about as if it happened overnight, it didn't. It was forged in the quiet hours when you were at war with your own doubts. It was born in the silence that others mistook for surrender. They thought you were done because they couldn't hear your heartbeat. But the truth is, you were never dead. You were becoming something they weren't ready to face. Every time you fell, you left a mark on the ground, not of defeat, but of progress. Every time you failed, you learned what not to repeat. They saw collapse. You saw construction. They saw an ending. You saw evolution. Because the ones who truly rise never rise by chance. They rise by choice. You made that choice when the world stopped believing in you. You made it when you had no audience, no applause, no reason except that tiny spark inside whispering, "Not yet." That whisper became your anthem. It became the sound that kept you alive when you had nothing else left. Because greatness doesn't shout, it whispers. It tests you in silence and rewards you in echoes. And now, every eye is on you, but not out of love, not yet. They're watching because they can't decide whether to fear you or follow you. They're studying your steps, analyzing your every move, trying to decode the pattern of your return. But there is no pattern. You didn't follow the rules. They broke around you. They can't explain what you did because it doesn't fit into their equations. They live in logic. You live in will. They live in statistics. You live in purpose. They measure progress by results. You measure it by resilience. And that's why your transformation confuses them so much. They keep asking how, but the truth is, how doesn't matter. What matters is that you refused to stop. You kept walking through days that felt endless, through nights that felt cruel, through voices that said, "You've had enough." You walked through every ounce of doubt until your footsteps started to sound like thunder. You didn't just turn your life around, you changed its gravity. You shifted the weight of every expectation that ever tried to crush you. You stopped being a player in their game and became the creator of your own. Now, when they point fingers, you smile. Not out of pride, but out of peace. Because you know the truth. If they're talking, you're doing something worth noticing. If they're whispering, you're doing something worth remembering. Their disbelief is the soundtrack of your success. Let it play. Let it echo. Because every time they say impossible, you write another chapter that makes it look small. Do you know what's even more powerful than proving them wrong? Living in such a way that their opinions become irrelevant. You're no longer chasing approval. You're commanding presence. You're no longer seeking validation. You're radiating conviction. Because when a person transforms from within, no one outside can define them anymore. You became untouchable not because you're flawless, but because you've accepted your flaws and turned them into foundation stones. And maybe that's what frightens them most, that you didn't need their applause to rise, that you didn't need their permission to shine, that you came back stronger without their help, without their belief, without their understanding. You became your own force, your own fire, your own reason. Look at them now, trying to trace your steps, trying to find the moment you flipped the script. They replay the footage, rewind the words, analyze your change, but they'll never find it because it didn't happen on camera. It happened in the quiet. It happened when no one was watching. It happened in the space between breaking and rebuilding, between giving up and going on. That's the mystery they'll never solve. They think transformation is visible, but it's not. It's invisible until it explodes. It hides in the repetition of lonely hours, in the refusal to stop when the body aches, in the persistence of a dream that no longer feels real, but still burns anyway. You carried that fire when the world forgot to believe. You carried it when hope felt heavy. You carried it until it carried you. And now, every step you take echoes with the sound of disbelief, turning into silence. Every win you earn is more than a trophy. It's a reminder that pain was never meant to stop you. It was meant to sculpt you. Every scar you have is proof that you were tested. Every bruise is proof that you survived. You didn't come this far to explain your story. You came this far to live it so loudly that explanation becomes unnecessary. There's something poetic about it, isn't there? The same world that doubted you now has to learn from you. The same people who mocked your silence now call it focus. The same ones who said you were done now call you unstoppable. That's the irony of transformation. It makes critics your witnesses. And yes, they're still pointing fingers. They still talk, still question, still analyze. But this time, it doesn't sting. Because you've outgrown their noise. You've become too vast for their narrow definitions. You no longer fit into their expectations because you've expanded beyond them. You're not who you were, and that unsettles them. You've become a living contradiction, calm, yet fierce, humble, yet powerful, quiet, yet thunderous. That's why they can't explain what you did. Because they keep looking for answers outside of you, when the truth is, everything happened within. They can't measure heart. They can't quantify will. They can't predict fire. And that's what you are now, a flame that refuses to be contained. You turned doubt into discipline. You turned fear into focus. You turned every no into fuel for your next step. And now, here you stand, not needing applause, not needing recognition, just knowing that you made it. You made it through the whispers, through the shadows, through the disbelief. You made it not because someone believed in you, but because you refused to stop believing in yourself. Every time they said it was over, it became another beginning. Every ending they wrote for you became a page you tore out and rewrote. You became the author of your own redemption. That's why they can't explain it, because they don't understand how someone can burn, and still rise from their own ashes, stronger, brighter, quieter, but infinitely more powerful. And maybe you'll never explain it either. Maybe you don't need to, because some things aren't meant to be understood. They're meant to be witnessed. Let them stand in awe. Let them be confused. Let them wonder how you did it, because every question they ask is another victory. Every whisper of how is another sign that you stepped beyond their comprehension. You didn't just make a comeback, you made a statement that echoes through every heart that ever doubted itself. You became proof that the story isn't over until you decide it is. You became the reminder that falling isn't failure, it's preparation. And rising isn't magic, it's persistence. They can't explain what you did because your transformation broke every rule they believed in. You became a contradiction to their logic. You turned pain into power, loss into lesson, failure into fuel. You didn't avoid the darkness, you walked through it and became the light on the other side. Now, whenever they point fingers, remember this. People point at what they can't control. They mock what they secretly admire. They question what they wish they could understand. Let them, because every finger pointed at you is a spotlight you earned. They'll keep talking, they'll keep wondering, but you'll keep moving, quietly, powerfully, unstoppably, because the truth is, you don't owe them your silence or your story. You owe yourself your legacy. And your legacy isn't built in one turn, one moment, one victory. It's built in the choice to never give up, no matter how many times you fall. You made that choice, and that's what they'll never be able to explain. Because love it or hate it, they're all pointing fingers at you for this player's 180-degree turn. And every finger pointed, every whisper spoken, every doubt uttered, each one is proof that you did something extraordinary. They can't explain what you did, and that's exactly how legends are born. You see, legends aren't written by luck, they're carved by endurance. Every name that ever mattered was once a name that was doubted. Every victory that ever inspired someone began in disbelief. And now your story joins that lineage, the story of someone who refused to stay silent when silence became suffocating, who refused to surrender when the world offered no reason to continue. You carried yourself through storms that broke others, and in doing so, you became something else entirely. Not just a player, not just a fighter, but a force. That's what they feel now, that force. It's in every look, every whisper, every confused stare. They sense it even if they can't describe it. Because transformation radiates. It changes not only how you walk, but how the world reacts when you enter a room. It makes people pause without knowing why. It makes doubters second-guess their own words. It makes the air heavier, charged with the quiet electricity of someone who's been through too much to ever break again. And maybe that's why they point fingers. Maybe that's why they can't stop talking. Because when someone returns from the ashes, they remind everyone else that comfort is dangerous. You remind them that safety isn't growth. You remind them that change hurts, but staying the same kills. You remind them that the easy road never leads anywhere worth going. You remind them that somewhere inside every broken person lies the capacity to rebuild. And that truth scares people. You didn't come back to prove anything. You came back because you couldn't stay away from who you were meant to be. You came back because somewhere deep down, you heard the echo of your own name calling you forward. You came back because your unfinished story refused to let you rest. And now that you've risen, you owe it to that old version of yourself to never return to the shadows again.